All right, today I'm breaking down the pros and the cons of being an SDR in tech or software sales. I started as an SDR in software sales 6 years ago. It's led to a 6-year career for me up to this point. I've loved it, but I acknowledge it's not for everyone. So I want to dispel any common misconceptions and ensure that you're making the right decision. So let's get into it. So I'll start with the pros. I'll start with the good. And the first one is an obvious one that I think draws a lot of people to look into being an SDR in software sales. And that is the high income potential. It's generally considered an entry-level position, but the income that you can make from that role exceeds a lot of other entry-level positions elsewhere. I don't go into personal numbers in my career, but what I can tell you is I was pleasantly surprised with what you can earn as an entry-level SDR. A lot of it has to do with where you work, how that base is structured versus your OTE, and how you're paid and what your KPIs are. But for most software or tech sale SDR programs, the income potential is very solid. The next pro is kind of slept on, and it was a big piece of why I love the SDR job, was that you work with people that are very similar to you. So when I entered the SDR role, it was my first job out of college. I think I was 22, maybe I'd just turned 23. But I worked with hundreds of people in the same situation. They were all also only 22 or 23. They had just gotten out of college. This was their first time making cold calls. They were in the trenches with me. You become friends with a lot of these people. They stay your friends going forward. And it's different than, call it, say, internships I had in college, where I was usually the youngest on the floor by a lot. Not all programs are the same, but this is one of my favorite pieces about the SDR role. I recommend doing a program that's in person. Not everyone might agree with that, but a lot of programs are 3 days a week in the office. I think that's where you build the bonds and the camaraderie. At the very least, if you are fully remote, I would recommend doing it in a city where you know the other people you work with are within your vicinity so you can eventually meet them. The third pro, and I hesitated to put this one on here, but it is a pro, is the work life. So generally, if you're succeeding at the SDR job and you have the role down and you're becoming more efficient, you can maintain that high income potential and have a great work life. You can generally work that 40 hours or even less. A lot of times you get out early on Fridays, stuff like that, but it is a pretty solid work life. I would just be careful if that's what you're looking for going into sales. I found that people that are looking for the good work life, they think tech sales is one of these laptop jobs where you can just work on your own hours. That's not the case if you're an enterprise or tech sales, especially if you're working at even a reasonably sized company. Most of them do have that 8 to 5, and the reps that end up succeeding are the ones that want to work more and go the extra mile. Because when you get to that account executive job, I would say this flips for a lot of people. The work life becomes a lot worse as you adapt to the new role, and then you can make the work life more manageable once again. The next pro is that you can build a very durable skill set. I think you learn some very base fundamental business skills that will serve you for the rest of your life that they can't take away from you. It's like riding a bike. Once you learn how to cold call, once you cross that chasm and you go from being really nervous and not knowing how to cold call to then becoming confident and you're like, I know how to do this, you could not cold call for 2 years. Yeah, you'll be a little rusty if you started again, but it's one of those things, it's just muscle memory. Once you learn, you never forget. And I just think that's one of those skills AI is not replacing anytime soon, despite there's a lot of controversy on that. I don't think we're near the point where people are gonna be making buying decisions based on what AI tells them. I think especially for larger ticket sales, which is what enterprise software sales is, that human to human connection is gonna be very important as far as I can see. And cold calling is just something they're not going to be able to take away from you. You also learn how to communicate value. You learn how to communicate through email. You learn how to run meetings and drive value. These are really important base skills that are going to serve you whether you stay in sales or not. And then lastly is the incredible experience you get. When you work for one of these big tech or these enterprise software sales companies, you often in your first year are running calls with executives at other companies, CFOs, VPs that have been in their role 20, 30 years, and you're 1 year out of college and you're already getting experience delivering and communicating value to them. That's a pretty unique skill set. A lot of these SDR programs didn't used to exist too. I talk to people who were 10, 15 years older than me, and they say, I had to wait 10 years into my career to get to where you guys are 1 to 2 years into your career. It's been rapidly accelerated with these new programs. You get very good experience very early on in your career. It's not all good though. There are some cons depending how you look at it. And one of the first ones is it's a very sink or swim role, and they kind of throw you into the fire in a lot of cases. So a lot of programs have a month or 2 of training. I wouldn't even recommend joining a program if they're not training you for at least 4 to 6 weeks. But a lot of times, once they get out of training, they hand you your headset and then they're like, okay, go call CFOs, go call VPs of IT. And you've rehearsed in training, but it's not like actually getting on the phone and doing it live. And it's kind of shocking. You're like, really? You trust me to call some CFO or some key contacts at one of your potential customers? It's kind of surprising at first, but yeah, they throw you into the fire, and some people run with it and some people crumble under pressure. And that's not meant to be an insult. It's just not for everyone. Another con is that it requires drive, and it requires a certain kind of drive. A lot of people are driven. A lot of people I knew in college were very driven, but they were looking for a job where their tasks and their schedule were laid out for them. They wanted that 9 to 5. They knew I had to get this done by Monday, this done by Tuesday, and once I get this work done, my job has been completed and my bosses will be happy with me. As an SDR, there's not that much structure to your day. You generally have a quota to hit. Yes, there are some things they lay out for you to do, but generally it's up to you to figure out how to hit your quota. And how you do that, they don't really give out a blueprint because there is no standard blueprint. So if you're the type of person that wants a job where your tasks are very clear and laid out for you, the SDR role might not be for you. There's a saying in sales, it's what have you done for me recently? People in sales, they don't just get satisfied. If they do well and they hit their number the first month of the quarter, you don't just stop, they want more. You have to go seek out and find ways to keep your foot on the gas, and it's not always laid out for you. You have to get creative and put in the work and go the extra mile. The fourth key con is that SDRs often go through a lot of change. So the role that you expected and anticipated on day one, that can change on a dime any month or any week of the quarter, depending on what's going on in the business. If the business is struggling or they've changed strategy from the top, that's gonna trickle down to SDRs, and all of a sudden your KPIs could change, your accounts could change, your go-to-market could change, you could be targeting different people, just like that. And you have to be able to adapt. There's no certainty and you can't get too comfortable. There's usually changes that come very frequently, and you have to be able to adapt and pivot your strategy on a dime. You can't just get comfortable doing the same thing over and over again and think that it's gonna last forever. And then last is kind of an obvious one that a lot of people fear. You're gonna get rejected. You're gonna get hung up on. You're gonna get people who send rude emails to you. You gotta have thick skin in the SDR job. And some people just don't wanna deal with that. I personally don't bat an eye. It's just part of the job, but a lot of people can't handle it. So if you don't handle rejection well, SDR role might not be for you. So these are important points to consider. Let me know in the comments if you're considering the SDR role, if there's anything you'd add to either of these lists. Hope this helped. If it did, hit the like button, and I'll see you on the next one.